Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a classic case of entitlement, destruction, and a Karen who thought she could finesse her way into a brand new leather sectional for free. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Her kids spilled sticky drinks on my free couch, then she called it garbage. I was finally able to afford a brand new couch for the first time in my life, grew up poor, so I got a brand new large sectional in full leather, not bonded, with lounge and recliner. It sure is nice. So I posted offering my older fabric couch and love seat for free. No stains or rips or smells or peeling. Bonded leather's the devil, never get bonded leather. But we're older, had a few years left, at least by starting to show their age, you know? Someone responded that they could pick up. Great, they said. They had a truck but requested they be taken down the stairs for them already. Not so great, but I understand. The day the lady was set to pick up the old set is the day that my new sectional drop-off is scheduled for. Great so far, right? The day comes. She arrives in a minivan that in no way will fit the couch. Maybe the love seat with creative Jenga moves? Maybe if she didn't have her kids in the car with her. I was in the middle of asking them why they said they had a truck when they don't, when the furniture store truck arrived with my sectional. While they're unloading the sectional, still wrapped up, but you could tell what was beneath the plastic, she tells them, no, don't unload it. Put it back on the truck and take it to her house. Excuse you? I say no way, to please take it upstairs to my apartment as planned while I deal with this lady. The lady argues with me that 1, I should deliver to her since she's a single mother. 2, why should her kids be stuck with old garbage, i.e. the older set, and that they deserve the best. 3, that she would never have agreed to take old garbage away, keeping in mind that I sent her multiple pictures of both the couch and the love seat and thoroughly described their condition, and she agreed she wanted them because her kids had nothing to sit on. During this, the workers are bringing the different pieces of my couch up, 4 pieces total, and trying to ignore her yelling at them to stop, that they're helping me steal her baby's couch. During the time of her yelling at me and the workers, all 4 of her kids have exited the van, are running everywhere and being obnoxious, trying to rip the plastic off the pieces of my new couch, bouncing up and down on the new and old couches, spilling their open drinks everywhere, including on the old couch set. I give her one last chance and ask, does she want the old couch and love seat or not? She says, ew, they're all dirty and there's sticky stuff spilled all over them. Why would I want garbage? Give me my couch like you said you would. She's referring to my new sectional. I had to threaten to call the cops to get her to leave. She left screaming at me that she would post all over about me stealing from 4 little children. Okay, Karen, whatever. The day was hot and the drinks were somehow super sticky and the couches were already outside at that point. My building management is super picky about stuff being outside, understandably. Long story short, I had to pay someone $120 to take the formerly perfectly good, if a little old couches to the dump because her little hellions trashed them in the matter of a half an hour. I wonder what happened to her old couch. She still messaged me after asking when I would be delivering her sectional so she didn't have to call the cops on me. Blocked. She's not just a choosy beggar, she's outright delusional. I'd have called the cops long before you did. I'd charge her with willful destruction of property. She damaged the old furniture to the point where no one else would want it. What an a-hole. And our second story. Reverse Uno on a Karen. Oh, you're the manager? Great. I popped into a local shop yesterday for bread and milk and a few other bits. It's fairly cold, so I'm in my outdoor coat, hat, and gloves and look nothing like the sales staff. I was searching for bread sauce when I hear a throat being cleared noisily nearby and a very brusque, impatient lady's voice saying, "Excuse me." I think to myself, it's the dreaded Karen, and I recognize that voice. This one I'm pretty sure I've met before. I know that saying, I don't work here, won't work, but this gives me an idea, a little experiment, if you will. So I turn to her and say, the manager, just the person I wanted to see. She looks at me with a priceless expression of confusion, mouth silently working as she tried to think of a response, and says relatively meekly, "But I don't work here." I reply to her, "Don't you? Oh, well, I do apologize. So what do you want?" Nothing," and walks away looking like the walls of her mind had just collapsed. I'm using this one again. I sometimes see retail spaces where employees either dress individually, some not even wearing badges, some they do wear the same shirts but have sweaters or coats on top because their role at the time requires them to go in and out of the cold. Also, many stores are lacking floor staff to help customers. I can therefore understand someone being mistaken for an employee. However, one should never assume someone's working there just because they look like they belong. What I do when I'm not sure is politely approach them and say, "Excuse me, do you work here?" Why do people find this so difficult? And our last story. The son of a politician got what he deserved. Sharing a story about my best friend, hereafter the friend who had an epic showdown with a very brazen homeowners association. I hope you'll enjoy his story and that it helps keep your faith in law and justice alive. My friend has a family-owned plot of 3 hectares of forest on the shore of a picturesque lake. There's a small one-room house there which they use as a summer cottage. Local regulations prohibit major construction. You can't build massive houses, let alone multi-apartment complexes. But recently, the wife of a local politician's son, let's call her Karen because her personality fits the name, suddenly managed to pull some strings and get a permit. She quickly built an entire gated residential complex, several multi-story buildings almost at the water's edge. At first, it all looked quite nice. They laid a wide asphalt road, making it much easier to reach the cottage compared to the old dirt track. My friend was happy that he no longer had to wreck his car's suspension on potholes. But as often happens, if there's a warning bell, expect trouble, and trouble did indeed arrive. The brand new HOA suddenly faced a severe shortage of parking spaces. Either they messed up the project or simply underestimated how many cars the residents of this elite complex would have. Instead of addressing the issue legally, they apparently decided no one would notice if they slightly encroached on the neighboring land. And since my friend's property has no fences or security posts, just beautiful nature and formally marked boundaries, it was an easy target. My friend told me how one day he was driving down the new road to his cottage when he saw a massive carport looming in the distance right near his land's border. At first, he thought it was still on the neighboring property, but something seemed off. He walked along the lakeshore to a large rock he knew marked the end of his plot. To his horror, he discovered that 80% of this huge carport was on his land. He decided to take the matter seriously. He hired a private investigator. It sounds fancy, but in such a situation, it's worth it. The investigator took on the case with enthusiasm, an unusual blend of elite wheeling and dealing, interesting legal grounds, and blatant violations. Here's what the investigator uncovered. The parking structure was built without an official permit. In the HOA's paperwork, there isn't even a mention of a covered parking area on that spot. The septic systems in the new multi-story buildings were constructed illegally. Their waste essentially flows straight into the lake. This is a serious environmental concern. The HOA was auctioning off parking spots in this illegal lot at inflated prices, touting exclusivity and proximity to the water. Essentially, they were making money on property that didn't even belong to them. The funniest part's that none of the residents who bought these spots had any idea they'd paid for air on someone else's land. As for Karen, the main developer and the shining figure of the HOA, she was probably hoping my friend's family wouldn't have the time or resources to deal with it. Once my friend had a stack of evidence, documents, photos, notarized witness statements, he took several steps. He contacted a lawyer specializing in land issues and property rights. The lawyer, upon seeing the papers, lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. It was all such an obvious violation. He drafted a substantial complaint to the local administration. He went to the environmental prosecutor's office regarding the lake pollution. The evidence and an environmental expert's findings showed that some of the septic systems were indeed discharging waste improperly. In this situation, small fines wouldn't cut it, the violation is serious, and government agencies are obligated to respond. He submitted requests to the tax authorities about the income the HOA might have earned by illegally selling parking spaces. These transactions worth millions were not being properly reported. That's when Karen and her team started to panic. The first inspections arrived soon after. Uniformed officials came to measure property lines and examine the illegal construction. It turned out that more than half of the parking structure stood not just on someone else's land, but in a zone where you can't build permanent structures at all. Even a simple cottage might be questionable, let alone a concrete parking facility. Then it escalated. Karen tried to resolve everything peacefully. She and her lawyers called and begged my friend not to ruin people's lives, promising perks like free road improvements to his plot and special discounts on anything under the sun. But by then, my friend was too angry. In exchange for living in harmony, Karen wanted him to forget about the illegal parking and let the HOA use his land indefinitely. He categorically refused. After several court hearings, the story took a very interesting turn. The court ruled that the parking structure must be demolished for violating land use and urban planning regulations. The HOA was ordered to tear it down at its own expense. Karen and the HOA board members were fined heavily, and the prosecutor's office continued its investigation due to the environmental aspect. They now face possible lawsuits and maybe even criminal charges, especially if the lake pollution is proven to be significant. The residents who bought these parking spaces were furious. They paid for nothing. Many of them are now filing suits against the HOA and Karen personally, demanding their money back. They were promised an elite lakeside parking lot, but in reality, it was an unauthorized structure on someone else's property. The tax authorities are also scrutinizing the HOA's financial records and the auction documents. If evidence of illicit sales is confirmed, more charges could follow. In short, Karen and her team are now at the epicenter of a fierce legal storm. My friend found his moral vindication and is now exploring ways to make better use of his land and lake. He might officially set up a small eco-zone or lease part of the plot for tourism. Legally, of course. And when Karen's representatives asked, "Why couldn't we settle this peacefully?" my friend jokingly replied, "Because I had no interest in expanding my business into the realm of illegal parking. I'm more into classic cottages and barbecues." In the end, Karen and everyone involved got what they deserved strictly under the law, and my best friend now sometimes brags that in case of demolishing Karen's parking, he'll end up with 20 parking spaces in the form of a nice bonfire made from the construction debris once it's all torn down. Thanks for reading, everyone. Take care of your plots and don't let a brazen HOA walk all over you. The forest man wants to live in his little forest cabin. If Karen doesn't get it, a couple of $100,000 in fines will explain it all to her. It's a lesson that's hard to forget. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.